everyone, Charlie here. I hope you're all doing well. So I'm not sure if you've heard, but Pokemon GO is finally out in Japan, and of course people here are going nuts just as they are in other places in the world. I know a lot of people are already sort of sick of seeing Pokemon GO filling up their Twitter feeds, filling up their Facebook, and a lot of people don't really get it. And that's really what I want to talk to you about today, is why Pokemon GO is so exciting, at least from a social perspective, right? So for me, Pokemon GO dropped at like a really not a great time towards the end of the month when like my data, the data I have left to use up until the 1st of August, is really sort of very limited. So I'm really only playing right now when I'm attached to free Wi-Fi spots, of which there are not many in Sabaya City, which Sabaya City in general, by the way, there's not really much here. There are not Pokemon for miles, I'm not kidding. So the first thing I did Saturday night after work was I hopped on my bike, hopped on the train, and rode it into Fukui City, where there is free citywide Wi-Fi. The first thing that I noticed when I got there is that Fukui City is one of the best, I think, has to be one of the best Pokemon gyms in Japan, because it's basically a gym that's centered around these animatronic dinosaurs, because Fukui Station is themed around dinosaurs, because Fukui is like famous for dinosaurs. But other than that, I didn't really notice anything all that special at first. Even though it was a Saturday night, things around the station were starting to die down, as in the case in Fukui. There's not really a big nightlife around like the main city, the main like hub around Fukui Station. People were starting to leave and go home or go to other places to get drinks, to get dinner, and whatever. But as the sun really started to set, I noticed a couple things at some really key areas. There's this area just about 2 blocks from Fukui Station known as the 100-year clock. Basically, it's a clock that was built a couple years ago that counts down to 100 years in the future, right? I think it's like 20 years into it or something like that. But one thing you notice immediately is that there are people gathered all around that area, right? And everybody had out their phone and they were playing. And I was like, okay, that's like a very... It's one incidence of Pokemon GO being popular here in Fukui and people getting together to play it. But slowly but surely, as day turned into night on the main strip, and the main strip, even though it's called the main strip, it's usually dead by about 9 o'clock on Saturday, Sunday nights. Again, just because there's not a huge nightlife area around here. But what I found when I opened up the Pokemon GO map was that there were lures dropped in multiple places along this main strip, right? And lures, of course, attract Pokemon to them, so a lot of players go there to play in those areas. And just 1, 2, 3 in a row along this main strip. And so I'm looking over there, and I see that there's just a huge group of people, right? And I'm like, oh, maybe they're going to the yakitori shop for dinner, or they're headed over to Burger King to try out the new Burger King that just opened up recently in Fukui. But no, sure enough, everybody had, you could see the green, what would have been more like a blue of the map open, the nighttime map, right? And they were all walking back and forth, waiting for something to pop out, trying to spin the Pokestops that were lit up from the lures all along this area. And of course, this replicates experiences that you could get anywhere in Japan or anywhere else in the world, pretty much. Where it got to be interesting for me, and where it really turned into something more than just another Pokemon game, albeit one that's probably going to have big implications on the future of AR gaming and how we interact with technology, was when somebody sort of said, konnichiwa, and I turned around, and there are these 2 guys. I met them one time. They helped my buddy Alex, who came over from Norway a couple months ago and visited me here in Fukui, and we went out and drank and danced and stuff like that, and I hadn't seen them since then. And so I meet up with these guys, and they're like, oh, do you remember us? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, you're playing Pokemon? And I'm like, yeah. So we start talking about all the different Pokemon in the area. So we're just sort of hanging out talking, right, and whatever. And then as I'm sort of waiting for the train to go home later that night, I meet this guy. He's like, hey, you live in here? And I'm like, yeah, man. And he's like, oh, how long you been here for? I'm like, about 1.5 years. He's like, oh, 2 years, right? And so the specifics of the conversation aren't really important, but he was playing Pokemon, right? And that's how we met. And so anyway, long story short, by the end of the night, by the time I was getting on the train and sort of departing from Fukui Station to go home and being really tired, the amount of connections, the amount of names that I had added to my phone book, so to speak, my list of people in line that I could message and talk to, had grown by no less than 11 people, right? And so Sunday, yesterday, I went back and met them for lunch, and you know, we went and played Pokemon for a good chunk of the day, and then afterwards we went out and we got beers, and we talked about, like, for example, I was trying to explain why Bulbasaur is called Bulbasaur in English, right? And, you know, we're talking about this, we're talking about the different names, and from there we're just drinking, we're having fun, and we're talking about Pokemon. And it's not, of course, a very deep conversation, but I'm hoping to see those guys again, right? And so, anyway, this for me really highlights the true value of Pokemon Go. Like, there's some major things that are lacking. It's an incomplete game, but it's fun, and the most important part is you get to meet new people, right? And you get to feel connected with people. And I think looking at the news, especially recently, it's so easy to feel like there's all this us versus them language, and that the world is much more distant than maybe it actually is. Now, Pokemon Go, of course, having said that, is not going to fix issues of terrorism or issues of racism or issues of sexism or issues with equality, right? It's not going to fix any of those things, but maybe just a little bit, it will bring us a little bit closer, right? And it can remind us that actually, you know, we have, no matter where we're from or what we look like or whatever the case may be, that maybe we all have more things in common than we want to admit. So anyhow, it's sentimental, and I think if you get too much into it, it is a problem, because for example, I think I spent like a total of like 8 hours this weekend playing Pokemon Go when I could have been writing or studying Japanese. But anyway, I think for me at least that initial hype has died down a little bit, but I'm so glad to have made some new friends, and to see that something so simple and something so fun could bring me together with other people. So anyway, that's all I really wanted to talk about today. Let me know what your experience has been so far with Pokemon Go down in the comments below. What's your favorite Pokemon you've caught? How many new friends have you made? Have you set up events just to go play Pokemon with your new friends? Tell me about it down in the comments below, guys. Thanks always for watching. Please like and share this video if you did in fact like it, and I'll see you very soon indeed. Cheers.